what makes a teacher garbage? There's a lot of things that can make a teacher garbage, a lot of personal factors, because at this core, I mean, you're really just judging someone's character, which can come down to a lot of personal preference. But zoom out a bit, everyone can usually agree universally when there's a really bad teacher and when there's a really good teacher. For example, my history teacher, really nice teacher, because one, she understands students. She's very flow with like anything she teaches, good at speaking, public speaking, I guess you can call that. Just overall a good teacher. A lot of teachers are really good. A lot of teachers, students like, they're like, oh yeah, I understood that lesson. As long as a teacher can explain something and the student understands it, I would say that's like the bare minimum of teaching, right? That's the whole job. You need to teach something. But that's the good teacher, or the bare minimum of a standard teacher, right? But that's the most teachers, so that's boring. I care about the minority of teachers which are garbage and don't know how to do anything and are just garbage. Now, it's a rare exception, right? You rarely come across a really bad teacher, but I think everyone's had their own experience, because a teacher can be garbage in a lot of ways. So, in my past, I've probably had plenty. I forgot a lot for my own sake and for everyone else's sake. But this year, I had a really bad teacher, my math teacher, and then I'm also going to use my dad as an extra example because he also sucks at teaching things. No offense to him, of course. He's a very nice guy. So, in terms of like teaching, I don't know, like a bad teacher in terms of teaching something can't teach something. If something can't be taught, what does that mean, right? It means either one, like students just can't listen to anything. But when a whole class can't understand something as a whole, usually that means it's not just the students being stupid. It's probably the teacher who can't explain something. Now, if they can't explain something, it's either they fail to catch most of the students' attention, or they just really suck at explaining something. Now, if I'm being honest, it's really rare nowadays that someone straight up can't explain something, because then they wouldn't be a teacher. They'd probably be fired by then. But yeah, I'll backtrack a bit. It is realistic that in some scenarios, students won't be able to understand the teacher. But that's also kind of the teacher's fault. But okay, you know what? Scrap that. I need to use a notepad because this is a genius idea. We're gonna go over horrid teachers, and I'll zoom in on that a little bit to make it more readable. Horrid teachers / lectures. What makes a teacher trash? We're gonna go over this. So we're gonna start off with the math teacher because this is an iconic one, and also I forgot a lot of the most garbage teachers for better reasoning. My math teacher, I feel like I can sum this up really easily in like 2 words, but I need to zoom in on specific things. What exactly is garbage about my math teacher? There's certain, like when she explains something, obviously when everyone explains stuff, you follow a straight line. The biggest thing, the most common thing when a teacher's explaining something that makes them absolute garbage is if you can't stay on topic, you're trash. You can't explain, or you can't catch an audience's attention for that long, or to properly explain something if you're just going off topic. For example, my math teacher would be explaining something, and then she'll randomly go on a side tangent for no reason that has nothing to do with the math lesson, or kind of, but mostly it's off topic, and then, no one has any clue where it just went, and then everyone's lost because freaking the teacher just went to a different dimension. Like, she'll be teaching this one thing, and she's like, oh yeah, by the way, this math concept was made by this mathematician. This mathematician had a wife who had a baby who made a gun, and this shot at father, and then their father had a sword, and then they had a math duel with someone, and then they had a math duel, and then they quadratic formula, and then everyone's lost, and it's okay. So now we're talking about solving for zeros in a quadratic equation, and then everyone's like, what? And that's just you can't jump around like that and expect anyone to follow what you're saying, and then worst case scenario, you just jump back to where you started like nothing just happened, because maybe one individual's mind can transfer at that speed and smoothly because your mind can do crazy things on its own, but you can't catch the audience, the attention of a very large group of people, and just yank it around to rant, just switching the target to several different things and then jumping back to the original target like nothing happened. An audience won't be able to follow that by any means. Even one person, even one-on-one, you rarely can jump between topics like that and just jump back to the original thing and be like, yeah, back where we left off. You can't do that. No one's brain is that adept, and no one's ever that on the same wavelength. That's why when they say like, oh, we're best buds, we're like, we think the exact same thing. Maybe in some very perfect world scenario, you can have like a friend or something that's like really same wavelength. Your brain jumps around like, oh yeah, and you're just like bouncing your ideas around like in sync. But realistically, teachers can't do that, right? Because you're in control of an audience, so you have to do something that's simple enough to follow as a group. Like, you need an audience to be able to understand something. It can't just be like something crazy that only you can understand. So if you go off topic, you lose everyone's attention. You lose a certain flow state of explaining something that everyone just like, no one can, like, you lose everything. You lose the attention, and then everything's kind of trash. So yeah, if you're a bad teacher, you can't explain something, you're going off topic, that's obviously one thing that makes them bad. Another thing is just talking slowly. That's a given. If you can't talk that fast, you're gonna lose attention, especially nowadays when everyone's like, what, TikTok, social media crap, me included. If you just, all the kids nowadays are very short attention span, so if you can't like explain something really like relatively fast, or at least like keep someone's brain engaged in something for a long period of time, you're gonna not make any sense. So like, you just need to explain stuff at a speed that like people will be like able to follow and not get bored along the way. That's all it is. Keeping engagement, which involves like talking at a pace or explaining something fast enough for someone to understand. That's all it is. Just keeping engagement levels. Yeah, that's just being like slow. I feel like that's the brunt of it. Mainly it's just being off topic, but for my math teacher, I don't know. She just was a really bad. Oh yeah, for being a teacher specifically, this isn't about explaining things anymore, but time management. This is related because she's horrible at managing the lessons in the class. For example, we'll be spending, say we have like 90-minute classes, right? 90-minute classes. She'll be like 80 minutes like on homework review, like just 80 minutes of straight like let's bring out the homework and let's go over the answers. I'm not even exaggerating. It's just the whole class of like, all right, who wants to go up and demonstrate how to solve the next problem? Great, you can go up, Thomas. And I'll be like, yay. And then I go up and be like, so I did this, and then everyone doesn't understand, which is probably the class's fault for being stupid, but that's also because she didn't explain the subject. Because here's the thing that happens with every class, right? It's 90 minutes to do homework, and then 10 minutes of learning. There's an issue with that, which is you can't actually explain new math concepts efficiently and in a way that makes sense in 10 minutes of learning, right? You can't cram that. So every time there's a timer that goes off at 5 minutes of the class, that happens every time we start learning. When we start learning a new subject, that's when that timer goes off. So if you can't manage your time, that means you'll have 10 minutes. Like in this situation with my math teacher, you have 10 minutes to learn something. That's not a good situation. When you have 10 minutes to learn something, it's not possible. It's not humanly possible. Unless you have Jesus as your teacher, you can't learn anything in 10 minutes. So the result is, oh no, class. We don't have time to learn the subject. Okay, go to Google Classroom and learn it yourself, because I just posted this YouTube video for you to learn. I guess another thing with that is like, you know, original teachings. Because my math teacher, when she did teach something, right, in this 10 minutes of learning, when she had the opportunity to teach something, she's copy-pasting a YouTube video. I highly suggest people watch Dana Mosley. God, I love this notepad so much. Dana Mosley is the math king. He just like does math YouTube tutorials, or not YouTube tutorials. He just explains math, right? He's just the math guy. He's my actual math teacher. I consider him my real math teacher because my actual math teacher didn't explain crap other than like mathematicians having math duels and like dead people and like random off-topic tangents. But yeah, Dana Mosley is a legend because he taught me 90% of my math in the year. If you can't teach, and then every time you do teach, you're copy-pasting someone else's math or someone else's lesson, word for word, example for example, she'll be like, all right, let's do an example, and then later you watch the video because you never finished the example. It's the same example. This guy does the exact same thing. Coincidence? No. She copies all her lessons from this guy. So, yeah. Have original content, because that way you'll probably be more engaged, which means you'll explain it more, you know, interestingly, and then that means the whole audience will be more engaged, and maybe manage your time better so that you can explain something as a better teacher. Crazy idea, but yeah, horrible time management, meaning not enough time for learning. She doesn't have original content, and all her ideas are stolen, and then everyone has to learn. Dana Mosley learn a new math concept on their own at home, and on top of learning 10 minutes of learning at home, there's just homework on top of that, right? You have to learn a new subject on your own at home, and then do the homework, and then repeat this process of 80 minutes of homework, right? This homework that you do at home, next class, let's go over that homework. No one had to go over the homework. No one learned anything from going over the homework, because we all did the homework already, or cheated the homework. I didn't cheat, everyone else cheated, but we don't need to review the homework for 80 minutes. We can go into the learning, but no, it's the same thing every class. 80 minutes, basically you're reviewing homework the entire class, and then 10 minutes of learning. Oh no, guys, I think you're gonna have to go to Dana Mosley and then do the homework on your own. Oh well, right? Boo-hoo. So that's just a few things of absolute garbage that my math teacher does. Boo-hoo. I did it fine that year. I got like over 100 and everything because the subjects are actually really easy. Everyone else is just stupid. But yeah, that's my math teacher. But my father lectures. Let's go into that. Not to be disrespectful to my father, because he did create me and bring me into this world, but if anything, this is like a haha prank moment, right? Not to say, my dad, I'm not being like a hate speech, I'm not protesting, I'm not that stupid. I love my father. He's a very wise, intelligent man. He has a lot of experience under his belt, more life experience than I will probably ever get. He's done crazy stuff in his life. He's very skillful, very courageous, very surprisingly social. He's surprisingly adept to a point where it actually really annoys me, where he's like enters a new subject, a new activity, and then he'll just learn it like really fast for no reason. Like one time we were throwing knives, don't ask why. We were throwing knives. I sucked at throwing knives. He sucked at throwing knives. And then he was like, "Okay, Thomas, let me teach you how to throw knives." I'm like, dude, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's like, you need to learn how to properly whatever, right? Throw knives. And then he throws it, nails it, straight into the wall. That sound of knife on wood board. Perfect bullseye. There was no bullseye, but he hit the board. It went clean in. And he was like, "That's how you throw a knife, Thomas." I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this guy just instantly learned how to throw a knife. Why does he know how to throw a knife? Okay, but point being, he's very adept. He's a very skilled. He's a very unique person. I love my father, but he sucks at explaining things. All this wisdom, all this knowledge under his belt, but he can't teach it to me because he sucks at explaining things to me. One issue is, I think a lot of the times where he's lecturing, it's not lecturing. He's actually venting to me. So I'm his therapist. You could think about it like that. But he's venting to me. That doesn't actually serve any purpose to me. So when I think it's a lecture, but he's actually just venting, I'm wasting my energy trying to absorb what is just complaints. And I saw a video about how venting is useless to everyone involved, because venting isn't like you're complaining without offering any solution, which is counterproductive to just both parties, because one side is just complaining and the other side is just getting smacked with complaints, and neither side is really offering a solution. I guess you could call that venting without a solution, because of whatever. But yeah, some of the lectures aren't lectures, they're just venting, so it makes it really useless. But when he does lecture, let's think about it. What makes those lectures so unbearable to listen to? Let's think about the first thing. I wouldn't say off topic, I would say excessive wording. What does this mean? I relate this to off topic because it's like he's going off topic, but it's close enough to the subject that it's not off topic. It's just really extra, but it's basically going off topic. Like if you were talking about gold, he'll be talking about precious metals in the earth, right? That's not off topic. You're talking about precious metals in the earth, but gold is the precious metal we want to talk about, and you're talking about a wider, like it's not narrow enough. Excessive wording, it's like too broad. Like it's not a nailed in subject. When you're explaining something, be specific, don't be broad. You have to like keep it zoom in on what you're trying to talk about, so that way someone else can know what you're talking about, not like this idea of what you're talking about. Because when someone needs to understand something, they don't want to understand like this crazy big nothing thing. They want to understand a pinpoint target of something. This is like, I'm thinking of like too many specific examples, but excessive wording, I mean, I guess universally you can apply this to anything. If someone's explaining something with a lot of extra unnecessary words, you lose a lot of attention from the audience. For example, I could say gold is a valuable metal, or I could say the earth has many precious valuable metals. Diamonds are valued by many people. Wood is a precious natural resource. Earth provides many natural resources. The air we breathe is a natural resource. We need to air to survive. You can say all that stuff. You're not necessarily off topic. You know, you're in the ballpark. Earth's natural resources, but we care about gold, right? You can just talk about gold. Like, that's a really bad example. That's just about being off topic. But it's like unnecessary extra wording, right? Another example. For example, if you wanted to explain how to go up the stairs, that's a weird thing to do. No one needs to understand how to go up the stairs. But if you were to explain that, I would explain it pretty simply. I wouldn't have much to say. I would say just like put your left foot up on a staircase, your right foot up, and then you go up the stairs. My father, he wouldn't say this, but what it sounds like when I'm listening to him is like it's like he's explaining this thing, and he'll be like, okay, in order to go up a staircase, you must put your left foot, elevate the elevation of your left foot, and then slide it forward and then move it down, applying pressure on the staircase, and then swinging your right foot up behind it, past your left foot, increasing the elevation at a steady pace until it reaches the next step, or 2 steps above if you want to be crazy, but most situations, 1 step up. Lower your right foot, apply pressure down, and repeat the same process with your left foot until you get the idea. It's on topic. It makes sense. It's just too many details, and it's excessive wording, right? Let's go back to the notepad. But that goes back to, like, I feel like I'm being treated like a 5-year-old, right? Like 5-year-old treatment. This is another issue. I wouldn't consider that an actual issue. It's just the fact that, like, he explains this stuff that's like, I'm not stupid. Like, you don't have to, like, elaborate on some stuff, and then, you know, like, it's just some stuff is not necessary. What's another thing? Whatever. I can't think of it. What, steamrolling? I made this term up. It's just like, if you're explaining something to me and I want to, like, say something or respond to something and just be like, what about, like, I have a question about this part, and then I'll, like, have a question about it, right? He'll be like, no, don't interrupt me, let me finish, and then he'll finish, and I still have that same question, but at that point I already forgot the question and everything just doesn't make sense. If you just steamroll someone, they're not absorbing content, you're just shoving garbage down their throat until, like, you're done talking, and then they're just like, wow, I don't understand anything. And I'm not saying that happens. I mean, that pretty much happens to me. If I have something to say, he'll either say, let me finish first, or as I was saying, and then he's just never acknowledged what I said. Or, I mean, if I do say something, he'll like shaky address it, like he doesn't answer the question. This is like, okay, unclear, all right? What's to say? A lot of the things, the way he explains stuff is just really unspecific, in my opinion. And a lot of it, okay, this is a big one. It's like common sense. We're explaining, like, common sense, in my opinion. You don't have to tell me, like, oh, typo, explaining. You don't need to tell me something like, you need to try harder, or you need to be smarter here. You need to be smart. I'm like, okay, really? I didn't think about that. Like, or like just stuff like that. It's like anything that a person would already know, you don't need to say something again to them. But at the same time, there are situations where like you hear it and you know it, but you hear it a new time and it like makes more, or it actually hits you like harder the second time. That's a rare scenario, but whatever. Like, there are sometimes he'll be explaining something that in my opinion is common sense, and most of the times it's just like, yeah, I already knew that. That's pretty basic. But sometimes he'll say something that's common sense, and I'll be like, oh, well, I mean, I knew that already, but now that he mentions it again, I'll probably like think about it more often and apply it more often. So sometimes, yeah, it's helpful, but who knows at this point. If I'm being honest, it's about either I'm a bad listener or he's a bad teacher. I'm probably a bad listener, but he's also probably a bad teacher. And I don't know. You can use some of these, I guess, some of these list items. At this point, it's his issue to solve, right? If I don't listen to his lectures, then that's on him. That's not really something that I will need to solve. So if he wants to solve that, he can take my opinions and just make his adaptations based off that. But I mean, the biggest thing is, okay, if I was a parent, I have this genius idea that I would just let the kid, I would ask the kid a question and then have them explain everything, how they think, how their brain is processing stuff. And then I would contradict them whenever I had the chance to explain my view to them. And if my view actually made more sense, then their mind would be changed. So that's like a really effective way to change someone's mind, right? To explain something to someone. So like if I had an opinion, and the way my dad would do it, he's just like, okay, I'm going to lecture you and talk to you about this for like what? However many minutes or hours. He says it'll be quick. 5 hours later, you're done and you didn't learn anything. That's not helping, right? I'm not learning anything from that. Now, if what he said made sense to me, then I would absorb it. But if it doesn't make sense, I wouldn't absorb it. But maybe it makes sense, and then like he just doesn't elaborate far enough, or he's not addressing all the points that I wanted him to address. So in the end, I think it doesn't make sense, and then I don't absorb it, and then, well, wasted lecture, wasted time. Everyone goes home. He thinks he just explained something crazy to me. Nothing was explained to me. In fact, in the past, I'd usually just shut up and like zone him out and not say anything and pretend I was listening. And then at the end, he'd be like, good. And then I'd be like, yeah, that was great. And then I actually didn't listen to anything. Now I'm trying to be better and be more honest. Now I'm just saying like, yeah, that's stupid, or like that's like I don't need to hear this, or no, I'm trying to say like can you like speed this up, or like that's common sense, or like ask questions in the process. And then now he'd be like, no, you're just not absorbing my content. You're fighting back, and that's bad or something. But like I don't know, it's like a little pissy. But who knows? It's his lectures. If I don't absorb anything, that's not really anything for me to solve, right? Yeah, there's nothing much more to say. In the end, I feel like my dad's lectures are, well, what are the highlight points? Common sense. A lot of the things he says is just common sense, so it's like kind of, you know, it's brain dead to listen to. Unclear, really broad steamrolling, because you just don't have your opinion addressed, and therefore it's hard for you to take him seriously. 5-year-old treatment, that was kind of a troll, but it's like you don't need to elaborate on stuff that's common sense. Back to that. Excessive wording, just like saying stuff that need not be said. Maybe it's the language barrier, but who knows. I'm really just ranting at this point. Nothing serious about it, like I said. But obviously, if you want to explain something to me, your son, you should probably be as clear as possible and make it as understandable as possible, and make sure I actually absorb 90% of the things you say, or else, you know, wasted lecture, wasting everyone's time. That's the type of situation we're dealing with. But I know the last 5 to 10 minutes was probably more of a rant. I don't really care. I'm just ranting. He rants to me, so therefore I will rant to a camera. I think that's a fair negotiation on my part. So, conclusion. Don't be a garbage teacher. Make sure to explain everything in a clear, concise flow of logic that will not lose anyone's attention. Then everyone will succeed in life. The end. Good job. Good night.